Hey guys, welcome to the Emergence podcast, a podcast that aims to empower fitness professionals through candid conversations about building sustainable minds, bodies, and businesses. I'm your host, Laura Gunder, ex-professional ballet dancer turned classical Pilates instructor based in New York City, sharing my insights from a decades-long journey navigating an industry with no set path to success. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hi, how are you doing? I am with Christie. I'll have her introduce herself just a little bit.
Hi guys, I'm Christy. I am a Pilates teacher and I've been teaching since like 2013. I own a Pilates studio in San Diego and I live in San Diego. And that's kind of it. I dabble with social media stuff sometimes. I'm a new dog mom and yeah, that's me.
I love that. Tell me a little bit about how you got into Pilates and sort of your journey in
Yeah,
classical Pilates, kind of coming from, did you come from a contemporary background or were you strictly classical?
kind of always classical, which is funny. I feel like that's not super common. Yeah, I feel like my first entry to Pilates was Blogilates. So maybe that doesn't count as classical. But
No,
literally
no, yeah.
like Blogilates, Cassie Ho. Because I remember I would like look at like workouts on like magazines when I was a high school, like in high school, but that wasn't really a thing, I feel like. Like my mom didn't really work out. And I grew up dancing a little bit, but I was like pretty academic in school. That was like my main focus. So I was like aware of what Pilates was, but I had never really tried it. And then I went to college and like didn't really have a fitness routine and decided to pick up running. Because my roommate at the time, like eventually this girl became my roommate the next fall. Her mom was really into running, and there's like a huge running marathon community in Boston. And then I was on a run, and I like literally saw this Pilates studio and just like continued running into it and was like, "Hey, you guys have student specials?" And it happened to be a classical Pilates studio, but it wasn't, and they had a really good deal. It was like 3 months unlimited for $100. So I
Oh,
was like, oh, I can afford that. That's like so cheap. And it was just for mat classes. And I started taking mat like 2 or 3 times a week because of that. And then eventually I got interested in like doing the teacher training. So I was trained, I started teaching and taking Pilates like all at the same studio
mm.
over the course of like from 2012 until about the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. I was like with the same mentor who like I started taking classes with and I also eventually ended up working for.
And how's your experience with your mentorship? I know a lot of people have interesting experiences with their first mentors, but I think it's really important having a mentor, regardless of, like what stage you are, but there's different mentors for different periods of your career. But I think, especially for classical Pilates, I think it's really important to have some type of mentorship because it's so much information.
It
Um,
is.
it's a
Yeah.
lot.
I know. I feel like classical pottery is interesting too because it's so oral. Like I feel like it's like an oral history that gets passed down. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, like so and so teacher told me that this was a variation that so and so gave them, and like that's why I teach this variation. Like there's a lot of that, or like, oh, this teacher taught me this. So I do think it is super important because that's like not going to be put into your manual, like all those stories and like tidbits that are really interesting. Um, it was very mixed, to be honest. And I I think ultimately I ended up wanting to work with her because she did really inspire me as a teacher at the time. Like she made me understand things and feel things that I had like never felt in my body before and never felt like as connected and in tune and aware of my body before. Like I would leave her workouts. It was the only time I had really ever experienced that. Like on a high of like feeling like, wow, I really feel like I learned something. I also felt like accomplished in my body. It was like that double like mind body connection. I had never really felt that before. And I do think ultimately at the end of the day, like she set a really good foundation of that with me, and I really respect that. But it was very mixed. Like I said, I think ultimately working for her versus learning from her were two very different experiences. And I think working for her was ultimately not where things worked out for us. And I think that was hard for
No,
me,
I think
especially
that's like a
ship
really
dissolved.
important distinction you made, though, because I think there is a difference between like learning under somebody and then working under them, because it's like I feel like that transition is actually really difficult for
Yeah,
all like in classical Pilates because you spend so much time with them and then it's like almost you feel indebted to them in a way. And I feel like they think that they can kind of, I don't know, it's like
it's a difficult transition, and I feel like a lot of people move away from their first mentors
Mhm.
for similar reasons. I know personally I had
Yeah.
mixed feelings about my
Yeah.
apprenticeship, but I am grateful that it was really they really preserved Ramana's and like the work, and there
Mhm.
was that historical uh sort of approach to it and respect for classical Pilates, which I think is
Yeah.
important to start.
Yeah, I agree. I do kind of agree. Like, I think, unfortunately, as a generalization, it doesn't mean it's everybody. Like, in the classical Pilates world, especially with like that generation of teachers, there is kind of that, like, it's my way or the highway. You're going to do things exactly the way I taught you to do things. Like, I don't want you to say that you learned that from me if that's not something I would teach. You know what I mean? There is like that rigidness around mentorship versus it being like this very open, fluid, like, I want to support you for being you. And I do think it's changing a lot now. And I think like as I've moved into a role of like mentoring girls at my own studio, it has like the more I do that, the more it makes me reflect on my experiences with a mentor and like how I would like to improve that and change it and like give people support. But it is really like mentoring people is really hard. And that's where I think like now that I've entered that role more, I do have a lot more like grace and understanding of like the mistakes that were made with me. And I understand how they could have happened, honestly, because it's very difficult.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, now that you are on the other end, how long have you been like your program's been active for now?
Um, since like 2023, so just a couple years. Yeah, we've had a
Okay.
couple rounds. I split up my program to be reformer and then mat, and then I'm starting my first group of comprehensive girls who finished both of them. Like they've done a round of reformer and a round of mat. So this is like an add-on. So I'm covering everything else outside of reformer and mat with
You
them.
go through the entire advanced.
So
Um,
all of reformer and all of mat is like, yeah, beginner, intermediate, advanced. And then they have like a practical test out component and then a written test out. And then the comprehensive is just covering all the other apparatus, basically.
wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot. And sort of what led you to transition to that from just having your own studio to being like, now I want to take on mentees, which is a whole other thing in itself.
It is. I do think people, well, I think it was twofold. One, I was having trouble hiring, to be honest. There's not a lot of classical Pilates in San Diego, and I needed help, to be honest. I was like kind of getting to that point, and I was like, okay, like this is a good way for me to like teach people from the ground up, but it is going to be like a long game. Like I'm not going to be able to get them teaching within 3 months, obviously. It's going to take like years. Um, and then secondly, people were kind of asking for it. Like we were getting these crazy wait lists of people who were just asking for training here because there just isn't a lot of classical instruction here or like instructors at all, right? So there isn't a lot of opportunity for that. And I think the people who are here who are more well known in the classical Pilates industry don't offer a training program for new teachers. They offer like an advanced training program for current existing teachers, which is still super helpful and amazing. But yeah, so I kind of like saw a gap in the market, like, and people were kind of asking for it, which was interesting. Yeah.
It's really cool. It feels like you kind of got on it on the right, sort of in the right time, in the right
I know
place.
Pilates is like weird because I don't know, like when I started doing Pilates regularly in like 2012, it was just like me and a bunch of random women, like older people who were older than me at the time, like
I know,
mom.
yeah, like moms. I would like take with
Like
a
it
bunch
was
of
not
moms.
cool. And I would tell people I was doing Pilates and they're like, oh, okay, like you're weird. And now I feel like it's really cool, right? So I do think like the interest in training has sort of sparked because of that. But it's interesting to see because I think like having been through the classical Pilates ringer a little bit in terms of like, I mean, you know how training is, like it's like so intense and a lot is expected of you. And there is like an etiquette in a way at a Pilates studio that you're supposed to uphold. You know what I
So
mean? Like you don't
specifically a classical Pilates studio. I feel like contemporary is a little more
like,
relaxed.
don't walk in with your shoes if you're a
Yeah,
student. Like that's an example of one that like if you're in a contemporary studio, I don't think people would care as much, right? But like there's just like things like don't drink water in the middle of your session if you're the student.
right. And there's also this like very distinctive, like this is the teacher and this is the
Yeah.
student. There's
Like
no
you,
like,
yes,
yes, there's
exactly.
a huge gap between who was in charge and who was the student, which
Yeah.
sometimes I think maybe that's why a lot of people feel sort of intimidated by classical Pilates
Yeah.
because some of the times the teachers don't feel approachable. And I don't know, you dance, but coming from like a ballet background, it kind of reinforces a lot of those very intense, um negative emotions around like kind
Yeah.
of slightly, I don't want to use the word toxic, but very aggressive, very old school
No, it's true.
mentalities towards training.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I experienced a little bit of it in dance, but I mean, I like didn't dance as much as you. It was very much like a side hobby, but I also like now that I've reflected on it a little bit, I think growing up for me being Asian American and with like two immigrant parents, that was actually my experience with my parents a little bit actually.
Mm.
Like I like you don't talk back to your parents in the family I grew up with. Or like, like you listen to what they say. Like I don't know. Like you don't question them kind of.
There's no questions. It's just
Exactly. Right. And which is what you would probably do in the ballet world, right? You're not going to be like, why is it like that? You're just like, okay, got it. Like following along. And I think that
Mhm.
is sort of like instilled in you. So for me, the classical Pilates world made sense because like that like high respect for your elders was like, yeah, that's what I do. But yeah, it has been interesting to see the norms, I think in a good way, like shifting a little bit where like more people who maybe wouldn't have wanted to do classical Pilates are interested because it really is like your foundation. It's like the piano of music, right? I feel like you really have to start there
right. It's like
100%.
classical ballet. It's for all dance
Right.
forms. Like it's
Exactly.
just
Like if you're
yeah.
a contemporary dancer or a jazz dancer, like you're still gonna take ballet. That's just like how it is. But I do think that it is interesting for me to navigate because I expect some of the norms of classical Pilates of my students, and right, like they don't come from that same background. So like they're not doing all those things that you'd expect. So it's like I have to choose what I enforce or not, which is interesting.
I was gonna say it's such like an interesting balance because right now I feel like when I first started, I felt too scared sometimes to ask questions because I felt like if your question was stupid or if you
Yeah.
didn't know, you would kind of be reprimanded for it. So it like almost made me too quiet to ask any questions.
Yeah.
After finding like Katie,
Yeah.
mentor, like she creates an environment, she does uphold quite a standard, but there is that space to ask questions and just kind of talk about concepts,
Yeah.
which in traditional classical Pilates aren't necessarily, you don't really have that space, I
Yeah.
feel like,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
much.
I mean, it's like you kind of save your questions to the end if you have them. But I do agree. Like, I think it's like I was always nervous in my training to look dumb in front of my teacher. Not even necessarily like my other students, but I wanted to be like well regarded by them. Like I wanted them to think highly of me, that I was like putting the work in and that I was like had potential or whatever, like
Right.
that was definitely I had that like perfectionism in me to like want and the desire for approval, I think ultimately. Like and I think that's why yeah, it's hard. And when you're young too, and you go into it. Like I was like 18, 19 when she started mentoring me. I was
Yeah,
like
you're
a
like super naive, of course, like you don't really have as many like you're not aware of different ideals of it. So of course you're gonna like take whatever is given to you and be like, yes, this is like
no, yeah, I know, right?
that. But with your own students, do you kind of notice that there's like some students who adhere more to like that kind of discipline and some people who are more relaxed? And kind of how do you navigate? Because everybody
Yeah.
can be a little different in their approach to training. Some people are probably more intense in terms of like diving in and learning, and some people are probably a little more relaxed and
Yeah.
chill. And
Yeah. Well, I think I've also like discovered my like I feel like I have a comfort zone of types of students that I jive the best with because they're most similar to me. And
Mhm.
like trying to be aware that not everyone is the same as me and like learning how to communicate and be comfortable with people who have different learning styles and or like communication styles. Because I think everyone does learn really differently. And I think that that is something for me, like the teacher who trained us was definitely more my during my training program was like a little more intuitive. Like she had a manual, but she didn't really flesh it out that much. Like, it wasn't like the super organized, like everything made sense. There was like an index with like all the connection points.
Right.
Like, it was all in her head. And she kind of like explained her thoughts and then sometimes they would change. And it didn't feel very black and white, which I'm sure you've experienced, right? They're like, oh, it's headpiece up. They're like, oh, never mind, it's headpiece down. I saw somebody and she told me it was headpiece down. Now it's headpiece down. I'm like, I don't like it
Like
didn't.
why? And then they're like, because. And you're like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
okay.
They're like, because so and so said so. I'm like, okay, like I guess it's headpiece down now. And then you would just have to follow it, right? I think girls who come from a dance background, for sure, tend to have the work ethic and the understanding of, um, yeah, just like generally, I feel like I've seen that. Um, a lot of, interestingly, people who've done a lot of school.
I mean, that
Does that
makes
make sense?
sense.
like in the sense of like they are like, okay, like I know how to study, kind of. Like I can like review the order. Like I got the order. Like I got the springs, I got the order. Like that's not hard for them to do. But some of the intuition maybe is a little more like difficult. But honestly, like I think with those students who are like really rigid like that, um, feeling the work in your body really is like what leads to the most success in terms of being able to communicate with the student too, because there is like a level of intuition when it comes to like hands-on. I feel like there are the things that you see other people do, but like your body is different and like maybe you can't apply the same pressure because like whatever, you have an injury. So I do think there is a level of like practice makes perfect too that you can work for as a teacher.
Yeah, I think that's true for sure. I think it's also kind of understanding your like Achilles heels as a teacher, like you can identify the things that you may are stronger for you. Like maybe you recognize that the order that's like easier for you, but then being a little more intuitive isn't. So like how do you balance that out? Or how do you help your students do you help your students kind of identify that? Or I mean, honestly, that's something that comes after teaching for a while. I feel like step
Yeah.
one is to understand the order and to understand the transitions because I feel like,
Just like
yes, you were
how to
saying,
teach the exercises and what is the exercise? Like what is the purpose of the exercise?
because if you don't understand the order, you won't be able to make any connections because you don't understand, yeah, like why would you do stomach
Right.
massage? Like,
Like
yeah,
after why is stomach massage before X or why is, whatever. Yeah. Like long back stretch before it.
exactly,
Right.
yeah.
So it's
And
like
you can't
what's
make those connections. And then
the
there's kind of pointless in trying to kind of refine your
yeah.
teaching skills outside of
Yeah.
understanding the basics. Has
And
it
that
kind of helped you? Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say that I think that it's interesting because, like all things in life, like Pilates reflects life, and I do think that entering a training program is like this weird magnifying glass on yourself. And like you were saying with the Achilles heel, like I think if you're not emotionally mature, like the feedback that you get feels sometimes like a personal attack on you, right? And like I don't think the teacher means for it to be that way, but I definitely felt that as a young person going through training. They're like, oh, like you need to study more. And then you're like, fuck, I'm not smart. But that's not what they mean. And I think that has been interesting to see that reflection. And also for myself of like, oh, like the way you handle feedback and criticism is like your own personal journey with handling feedback and criticism that is just in this container of like teaching.
No, I love that you said that. I feel like, yes, like as you get older, there is like a level of like the more secure you are in yourself in terms of like being able to identify those things and be like, oh, this is a me thing. This has nothing to do. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is not criticism. This is just feedback helping me become better. Um, that is really important. How did you kind of get to that just like over time? It's just part of getting older, obviously, is like kind of like having that self-awareness to like be like,
It's what? Like handling feedback?
yeah, like handling feedback. Like I feel like that is like super important, especially to being a business owner. Because like
Yeah.
if you can't
No.
handle feedback, how are you gonna have a
It used
successful
to scare
business?
me a lot. Well, I don't know. Do you feel like you handle feedback well after being a Pilates teacher? Do you feel like that's been like a lesson that has been instilled in you or like drilled into you, unfortunately?
I think as a ballet, coming from a ballet background, I had a lot of trouble at first after ballet handling feedback because I was just so used to negative feedback that any like not criticism, but anything I would get, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm the worst teacher ever. I'm so bad at this.
Like you'd almost have an anxiety when someone's like, "Hey, like I have some feedback for you." You're like, oh, "Fuck."
You're like,
You're
oh my
like,
God, I did it all wrong. I'm like the worst person and go like sit and cry in the corner. But like now I feel like I asked for feedback. Like I will ask my clients like every year. Sometimes I send an email, be like, what do you like? What things do you like and what things do you
yeah,
not like? And regardless if it's in the session or just like, like things just in general, I think it is really important to get feedback because it's only a tool to enhance your business, your practice. And the more information you have, the better you can be. But I
mhm.
think that's just come with time and accepting it, then it does the inverse. Like I feel more connected to my clients. I feel better at what I do. And I feel like the more I can ask those questions and be okay with feeling stupid, I feel like you
Yeah,
just get better.
no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, yeah, it was getting older and experiencing more life that helped me with that. And I actually think like my like breakup with my first mentor or whatever you want to call it, like the
Yeah.
dissolution of our relationship, which is very unfortunate. Like I do kind of wish that we were able to save that relationship. Um, was like my first way of like big major negative feedback. was her basically telling me that, sh yeah, there was basically like this whole big dramatic conversation at the end of it all, which ended things where she basically was like, I don't think you're capable of being a Pilates teacher and like making it. And
Like
again,
Hollywood, like that's a little intense.
it's
Like,
very dramatic, but I felt like, and I felt very scared because her feedback meant everything to me at the time.
mhm.
And I like did, and it did actually like really break my confidence in myself as a teacher for like years. Like, and I felt very lost for like 2 or 3 years because of that one piece of feedback, the one sentence that she said that is really just her opinion and how, and she was definitely projecting her emotions onto me at the time. Like I don't know if she really meant that deep down, but I think that was just how she felt in the moment. But outside of just like processing that specific moment in time for me, and just I think it's mostly just practice. Like I got rejected a lot. And like getting rejected a lot made me get thicker skin. And that but it wasn't something that like I intentionally asked for. So basically like when I left that studio, the local modeling agency in Boston, there's really only like one. I basically like started modeling for them as a part-time. So I was like working at Equinox, I was doing that, I was working at a bunch of other group fitness studios, and like this is also when I started being a little less classical and I was like teaching bar and like Pilates fusion and
Yeah.
like what booty burn at Equinox, like all of that stuff. I was like just doing whatever because I was like, I don't really know like what I stand for anymore. Like I don't know if I like classical Pilates because of this experience. And like I'm scared to find another mentor because I don't know if it's gonna end badly. And I think the modeling actually is really what helped me the most because I got a lot of no's, like back to back to back so fast. You know, it's like you never hear back from them. Or it's like, oh, like you're on hold for this job that's like really cool and it's gonna pay you like $40,000. And then like, actually you didn't get it. Sorry, bye. Or like you just don't hear anything. And I think that happened like a lot, like a lot, a lot. Like maybe like I don't know, like 50 times in a year. Like so many times that you just got used to it and you're just like, oh, like whatever. It doesn't mean anything. Like I'm still the same person. It doesn't mean I'm like less anything. It's just not the right fit for the job. And I think I learned to like take my person out of other people's decisions.
Yeah, and
If
then that just builds your resilience. So I
kind
feel
of,
like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like that probably benefited you now to, I mean, you're so young and you have such a successful business as it is already, and you already have a training program. So I feel like, yeah, that probably just propelled you. I mean, in the moment, it never seems that way, but like all those things where you feel lost, I feel like feeling lost in life in general, but especially in your Pilates career is super
yeah,
common. Like we all kind of go through that feeling of like, I go through phases where I'm like, I hate Pilates. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, what
yeah.
the fuck? Like, I'm terrible at
I
this.
did this.
And I'm like burnt out and I'm tired. And what am I doing? And
Mhm.
I feel like I usually feel that way when I'm overworking. I'm not really doing the work. And I also have found that I don't have a life outside of the Pilates studio. So it's
Yeah,
like, I just get very resentful of it. But then I remember how amazing the work is. Like when you make time to really practice and like make time for yourself, it's like it is such a rewarding career, and like
yeah,
it is limitless when you're working for yourself. Like you have your own studio, you have a training program, like there's
yeah,
so many ways you can take it.
yeah,
Uh, but you can get very like I get very like insular in my thoughts and just like in this loop if I'm just keep doing the same thing. For me,
yeah,
at least, I feel like I need to be doing a million things. That's just how I work best. Some people
yeah.
can just focus on one thing, but I feel like I'm like ADHD and I'm like, I need a project. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, is this part of your one of your projects?
exactly. This is part of my projects.
Like this is helping me
Yeah,
actually.
this is helping my creative side.
No, I mean, I think I'm the same way where like sometimes it's easier to shift your focus. And I
Yeah.
think that now that I'm in a space with my business, I think it has been more fulfilling for me as an ADHD. Like some, I've always had many various interests. Let's put it that way. I think we just have a very amount of heavy, a lot of interests. Like
Yeah.
when I was in high school, I was like in drama and then also in marching band and also in the science club. And then also like in, yeah,
Like
I
a
was just like
sexy nerd.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like random random stuff. Like I don't even know why I was in the handbell choir. I was like, why am I in this? Because my friends were in it. So I was just like, ding. Like so weird. But I always wanted to try something new. Like I was always open to trying new things.
Mhm.
And I at first was like, are people gonna think I'm unfocused because I'm like not a hard worker. Maybe I'm like a jack of all trades, right? But like not an expert in anything. But I think having a business has really helped me because I can do everything. And it does help me shift my focus. Like one day it's like payroll, right? And like one day it's like administrative work and like answering new client inquiries or finances or operational stuff and like organizing my back room or cleaning the toilet or teaching or ordering toilet paper, right? Like it's like all sorts of random marketing stuff, fun events, like photo shoots, like planning all of that. And I think ultimately that was all stuff I wanted to do because I enjoy doing all of those things. And I do like that I can do all of the things. I just think sometimes it's a lot of work.
It is. It takes a very specific kind of person. I mean, let's talk about having a studio. How long
Yeah.
has your Ascend been open for now?
So I signed the lease in July of 2022, and I really did like this very slow drip, but I usually say like September 22. But I didn't open semi-privates up because I didn't have equipment until February of 23.
Can you talk a little bit about kind of how you sort of scaled? I mean, I know you kind of say I read a little bit, you started small. Most studios start small. You have like two pieces of equipment and you just slowly start building that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of where you got now because now you have like like big group classes and like very busy studio. And it hasn't been what was that? It's been like 5 years, 4 years,
Um, 2.5.
2.5. Not even close. Good job, Laura.
Thank you. I was like,
My math
Laura.
isn't mathing. My brain. I've been
No, it's
all
okay.
day. I was like,
Um,
one.
right? Yeah, like 2 years last September was our 2 year anniversary. So it'll be almost 3 years basically this year.
Well, that's amazing
Um,
because that's like an incredible scaling within
yeah.
just a very tiny amount of time.
I mean, I do think that there was like a big white space in San Diego, like back to the training programs. I think it was the same for a
Mhm.
classical body studio. Like I never wanted to start a studio willy-nilly, just like for random purposes, like for my own vanity or just like,
Yeah.
I could work somewhere else. I knew I could, and essentially got my first piece of equipment when I left that other studio. And there was something that popped up on Facebook Marketplace, and it was like an 80-inch Adobe White Grotz aluminum reformer, and some lady like broke her neck unfortunately and couldn't use it anymore. And it was like almost brand new.
Oh,
And I drove to Connecticut from Boston and picked it up and put it in my living room. And that was my first piece of equipment. But I never planned on like teaching people on it. I was like, oh, like it's a really good deal. It was like $2,800, which is like so cheap
wow.
for
Yeah.
a almost new 80-inch. And I still have that one, obviously. And then basically I like slowly started acquiring equipment. And even in Boston, I was teaching people in my apartment, actually. I started teaching people in my apartment. So I had a wall unit, a baby barrel, and the reformer. And I would teach people in my apartment. And then when I moved to San Diego, it was the same, where I had a second bedroom and I would teach out of my apartment as well. And I acquired a wonder chair at that time as well. So I had all that equipment to start with. And then I basically felt at some point that I was like limited by my house. I was like, dude, like when I like cook my like curry, it's gonna smell like curry, and then they're gonna walk in and it's gonna be like fucking curry Pilates. Like it's not. You get limited by it because I also don't want to put my address out there. Like it's creepy. Like, I don't want random people showing up at my door. And I basically found a listing on Craigslist, and I had been like looking on and off for 2 years. And I was investigating like the Pilates scene. So I moved to San Diego in 2020, not really knowing a lot of people, and basically discovered there like wasn't a lot of authentic, like whatever, like New York style classical Pilates
Mhm.
here. There's a lot of like people who are trained by Lolita, which I feel like is kind of a different blend of classical Pilates. Um, and I worked at a studio of like Lolita instructors at the time, and then worked at a hot mat studio, which was not classical at all.
I mean,
And
it's
I was
fun though. Like you get to play
It was fun,
music.
but that was kind of my vibe at the time. Like I
Mhm.
was teaching a lot of big group classes at the time, like at Equinox and like other studios like that in Boston. So it made sense for me, but I eventually decided to leave both when I wanted to open my studio and left and then opened the studio. It was a space I found off Craigslist, literally. And then I just signed the lease, had 2 weeks, and just moved in. And they had renovated the whole space for me. So I didn't do any construction and just like moved those pieces of equipment. And then I happened to have found in Los Angeles a Cadillac and a ladder barrel that someone was selling that was both grots as well. So I
Nice.
hired a task rabbit to move it down. This is literally the story. And then I opened. And then I had a couple of clients for my home clients. And a friend of mine writes, she's like a freelance writer, and she writes for a local newspaper here. So she like featured our studio in the newspaper. Um, And then a couple more clients came in, and then our website was, it just was this very slow build. It's not like it got super busy right away. Like there was no like grand opening where like the
Yeah.
doors were flooded and everyone knew about us. And I think even in February when we got all of our equipment delivered and like I unboxed all the reformer tower units, um, yeah, it wasn't like it got super busy right away. It took a while to get busy, a couple
I feel
months
like
for
it's
sure.
probably almost better. It would be very overwhelming to open a studio and it be like full capacity. Like,
Yeah, it
yeah,
wasn't like an instant success though. And I feel like some Pilates studios I hear about, I'm like, dang, like that was crazy. Like it looks so busy there right away. And like they have like a million students coming in the door left and right. And I think ultimately with the concept that we have, like it didn't really exist in San Diego before of like small group class studios, which is very classical. That's how the studio I was teaching at, that the woman who mentored me, she had studio like classes of 4 that she would do. And then she would have privates and like duets, obviously. So I was very comfortable with the idea, but it just didn't exist in San Diego. So I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna brand it as like small group classes, call them semi-privates, and like charge slightly more than a normal group Pilates class. And that'll be the concept. And it'll be a classical Pilates studio, and like it's not gonna be crusty and dusty and like, because I was used to the crusty dusty vibe from Boston, because that was all the classical studios, like all the cute studios were
like
crusty.
carpets and it's just like
Carpet,
gross.
dark. Yes, just like not updated, doesn't care about how it looks. So I was like, I'll just make it cute and then like we'll see what happens. And I do think that that was like a little bit of a white space. Like a lot of the girls who maybe have never done classical Pilates before, but have like come in to explore it are like looking for a cute studio, but want to try classical Pilates. And like it's kind of the only thing in the area that fits the bill right now. So yeah, that was kind of like my concept behind it in opening. But we started to really get busy, I'd say like September, fall, like a year in, to be
Okay.
honest. Which is kind of crazy. Yeah.
No, that's so exciting. And what are some things that you would recommend for people thinking about opening a studio to not
Mm.
do? Like, is there
Oh,
anything that you're like, kind of wish we didn't do this? Or not in a
mm.
negative way, but if I reflect back, I would have changed X.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of girls actually like on the internet reach out to me about opening a Pilates studio because I do think it's like a new um like dream job for people. I
Super
don't know.
popular. Yeah, everybody wants to be a
Really
Pilates
popular right now.
instructor.
Exactly. Yeah. My biggest advice, and I mean, I feel like the people who will be listening to this probably like are not these people, but like if you don't currently teach Pilates, maybe don't open a Pilates studio. And I
I
feel
would
like again, this
I would
doesn't really
agree.
apply to people listening probably, but like I do get a lot of girls who are like, I've never taught Pilates, but like I love the idea of like this type of Pilates studio. And I'm like, well, like, how are you gonna like uphold the quality of instruction if you can't even interview them and it's just you? And like, and like maybe that's me being old school with like the classical Pilates. There really is always like this like one amazing instructor that the studio is centered around. I feel like in the classical Pilates world, right? Like that you want to learn from. And I think in the contemporary world, like a club Pilates, it's just a franchise. Like some random person can just buy it and open it and hire people, and it just like works out.
I don't think it works out though, because I feel like there is a need right now that everybody, like people are smart, clients are smart, people want that
They want
expertise now.
quality instruction,
Yeah,
basically. People
because
who know
you
what they're
can
doing.
feel the difference. When you go to a teacher who makes you feel something, you'll never be able to feel anything else.
No,
Like
it's
no matter
true.
where you go, you'll be like, this just doesn't feel like when you go to a good Pilates class, good classical Pilates class, nothing feels better because everything is just so connected.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel like you chase that because no matter where you go,
Right?
it's not gonna feel it's not gonna feel the same. And it
Mhm.
can't be franchised. I think that's the kind of
That's
beautiful
what's
thing
hard about
about
it because there's
small
always
studios.
gonna, exactly. You can't really franchise it. So it's not really a scalable business, to be honest. Like you can't make a fortune off of it, unfortunately.
I guess in
Sense
some
of
ways
like
you
franchising it.
can. I mean, yeah, if you have like people rent from you, which you do, right? You like rent out space for your instructor.
We transitioned to a model where I actually pay all my instructors.
Oh, okay. And why did you choose to do that? Was it just easier for your like bookkeeping?
People weren't paying me on time.
Okay. That makes sense. That
So
can
we
be that's
changed it where I pay them on time now because I'm responsible for it, and the customers all pay me directly, and I process all the payments.
and do
Like a
you
mo
use like a accountant or like mind body? Like what systems do you use?
I use this software called Moments, Momence, which I actually really like. I saw another studio in the area actually using it, but it's really good for managing like group and private classes. I think if you're only doing privates, it might be too robust in terms of
Mhm.
like the everything, but it really covers everything. Like you can text clients off of it.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
literally everything, like texting clients, email campaigns, finances. It like auto drips people who are interested in taking classes but haven't signed up yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
very,
it like really is like pretty robust
very
software.
comprehensive for like a studio.
Yeah.
That sounds great,
So
actually.
yeah, we use that and I try to use like most of the features if possible. Like everyone gets reminder texts 48 hours and then 24 hours before each class they sign up for.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So yeah, like it does make life easy. I don't know. I'm thinking of like other mistakes that we made. Oh, well, yes, speaking of money. I think it's easy to get carried away with things are expensive. I think it's easy to get carried away with like wanting to invest in your business. And I think it's really good to invest in your business, but you obviously have to be smart about staying not in debt. Staying
In the
afloat.
red, yes.
Right, exactly. So I think being very aware of your cash flow and like what's coming in, what's going out. So like doing at least like a monthly analysis of what's happening financially for yourself. And this is probably good advice for like any human,
Just
business or
life,
not.
just being an
Kind
adult. Yeah.
of, right? But I think for a period of time, I was like, oh, I'm so good. And then I looked, I was like, I'm not good. And that was a big mistake I made, and that like I had to learn it like really, really from a lot. And I had to like pull from my personal savings to pay for my business at that point. And because we were like good for a period of time where I was making a profit. So I think, yeah, that was a really hard lesson to learn of like, oh shoot, I need to stay very on. I need to be very like micromanagey and like a little bit more of a stickler when it comes to paying for things. Like what's really worth my money and what's going to make me money versus like is a fun side project or like will bring me awareness and is cool and like I really want to do and like finding the balance between the two of like what I should invest in and when.
I feel like that's once you have something more established, like I feel like in the beginning you can be a little more fluid with like, oh, maybe I'll try this or I'll try that. And it's more fun. But I think, like you're saying, when you have like an established business and there's like bigger expenses and things, it's like you kind of have to be a little bit more narrow minded and be like, what is the true value of what I'm investing in and what's the payback? Because eventually, yeah, you can't be doing everything and
Mm-hmm.
things cost
Yeah.
money. And
Unfortunately, and I think that's like kind of the lesson I learned at the end of last year of like my second year in business because I like did a retreat. I
Mhm.
was like doing events left and right. I was doing merch left and right. I was like doing all of this and none of it was like very focused. And I think that now I'm like, okay, like if I do merch, like I have to work with someone who like has apparel design as a background and like can help me like really narrow it and make this like a meaningful moment versus just like random for the sake of wearing it or having it and like a vanity project for my own self because I wanted it.
I feel like
You know,
it's cute. Your merch is cute, but I can see
that's what
that.
I'm saying, right? Like, is it cute or does it make money?
Right. That's
Unfortunately,
true.
I know. I love the merch, trust me. I'm making merch right now, and I've just accepted it's a vanity project. It doesn't really make that much money, but
Mhm.
like I think it's cute.
And people wear it. I feel like people really like you're super good at, do you have a marketing background?
So, well, yeah, I guess. I I was really like obsessed with marketing in college. Like I
Hmm.
never thought I would teach Pilates full time, ever. So I started my comprehensive training my senior year of college and had just finished an internship at Levi's, like the jean brand in San Francisco. And I wanted to take that job. But it's like a long story, but my husband now, who was my boyfriend at the time, was an international student or like was an international and basically like couldn't leave his company in
Hmm.
Boston. We had to stay in Boston if we wanted to stay together. So I chose to stay.
It all
And
worked out in the end, it
it
seems.
worked out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I ended up taking a job at a marketing agency in Boston after college and got laid off. And that's how I ended up working in Pilates full time because I got laid off and I was working on the side. Like I would teach, I'm trying to think of my schedule for Pilates. I would teach 9 to 5, obviously. I mean, I would work 9 to 5 and I would teach like Mondays, 5:30, 6:30 p.m. classes. And I would have like clients on Thursday night. And then I would teach like Saturday, 9, 10,
Yeah.
11. Like I would do like a
My
weird
God, that sounds
little
horrible.
part-time schedule. Yeah, I know it was rough. It was hard. And then I would like try to work out early in the morning beforehand. But yeah, I think that when I got laid off, it really was hard for me. Like it was really hard for me to process that too. That was one of those like early rejection moments that I like couldn't handle. I was like, dude, I can't talk about this. And I didn't talk about it for like 5 years. I was like, oh, I left. I would just
I
straight
mean,
up
I
lie.
get that. Like, yeah, it's like you feel like you
I
failed
felt
and you don't want
ashamed.
to share it with people.
Yeah, I felt ashamed and I felt like I was like shit. Like I put so much work and energy into like telling people I wanted to be this marketing girl and like run some crazy company in their marketing department and like do fun, cool, amazing things. And then like here I am working at this like random Pilates studio. It's like not what I told people I said I was gonna do. But obviously it worked out in the end. So I think, yeah, I do technically have a marketing background, but I think like there's a lot of instinct too with marketing that
Mhm.
I guess it comes down to and like staying very up to date with like trends and what other people are doing. But I think ultimately marketing is about like, do people know you and getting the word out there? And like, do people trust you and want to recommend you to people? And I do think like word of mouth is very powerful and like how people, the experience they have in your studio does matter because I think subconsciously or consciously, they're going to have thoughts about it and it will come out to somebody at some point. And I think marketing is
Yeah.
just like that awareness of it and like cultivating it and using it to your advantage as much as you can.
I feel like marketing is a tool to get people in the door, but you as a human being, as a person, as
Yeah.
like the
Your
energy you give,
inflection,
that's what
your
keeps
quality.
them.
Exactly. Yes. And I think retention is the instructors and the vibe in the community even, right? Like if your client, like all their friends are at the studio, they're never gonna leave because like that's their third space. Like that's where they go to like see people and like hang out. Um, but yeah, so I do think like all of those things are important. But yeah, like marketing is like, and we really only do social media. Like I don't do press or PR. I don't like pay for anything. We just, yeah, that's it.
I feel like really for Pilates studios, it's not really necessary. Like Instagram, TikTok, maybe, but like we said, it's like those videos are what get people interested, and then the instruction and the caliber of the instruction is
Is
what
what
keeps people.
I agree. Yeah.
It's, you know, it's not, I feel like people get too caught up in social media. It's super fun. I love social media, like in terms of like in a creative outlet and like
Yeah.
track progress. But I think for teachers, it's important to understand that that's just a really, really tiny component of being successful.
I
Like
know.
just
And I
because
think,
somebody
yeah.
has like 2 million Instagram followers, their caliber of teaching could not match that. And you don't know how many clients they actually have.
No, yeah. Or how much experience they actually have in
Yeah.
terms of like years of experience, right? I totally agree. And I think that like I'm on the same page where it's like that's just a slice of them. And for some people, like it really is a reflection of their quality of experience, like what is on there. You know what I mean? Like it is
Yeah.
just a true reflection of like a mirror. And for some people, it's like it feels like you're almost catfished.
Yeah.
You're like you go in and take your class, you're like, what? Like what was that? Like what did I just
Like
do?
my neck hurts and I kind of feel stiffer, but that's
Like,
okay.
I feel a little bit off. Or like, oh, that wasn't classical Pilates at all. Like, huh, that's interesting. So yeah, I do. It is social media is unfortunately like a necessary evil, though, I do think,
Yeah.
in this world of getting the word out there. Um, so, you know.
But anyway, what do you have coming up for the studio in 2025? Any like big major changes or sort of just focusing? Sounds like maybe on their training program. That seems like a very big thing.
A lot of training stuff. Yeah, we're starting the comprehensive training. I have a reformer group right now that's finishing up next week.
Mhm.
At least the workshops are. And then there's like all that independent study hours that they have to do on their own. And then the comprehensive begins in March. And I'm actually going next week to Dubai in the not the Philippines, Dubai in the Maldives for vacation because I
Oh,
have
for
2 weeks.
vacation. Okay.
Yeah,
You're
between
gonna
the two.
teach there. I was like, oh,
No,
that's so
I
cool.
wish.
I'm sure you can find somebody to like make a
I'm,
connection.
I'm taking classes. I
Oh,
don't know if you've heard of Pure Pilates in Dubai.
maybe.
The owner did the work with Jay Grimes.
Oh, okay.
Um, And it's been around for a little while, and I've visited a few times before. So I'm taking classes there, which is nice. In the Maldives, I'm not taking any classes. There's
Yeah,
nothing.
sit on the beach and just
It's just,
sip
exactly.
a
It's just literally
margarita and
exactly.
just chill.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So that's like on the personal note. But yeah, I'm trying to think on the other front of like we're getting more equipment, and that's fun. And I think eventually our plan, maybe in the far future, or I don't know, it's kind of like
yeah.
I'm not sure when, to be honest. Like I don't have a concrete plan. Is to get a bigger space. Is to get
Okay.
more space. I do feel like we're getting a little bit, it's getting crowded. It's feeling a little tight sometimes, and I do feel a little limited by how much physical space we have. Um, so yeah, I think that that is maybe in the like 3-year plan eventually. Yeah.
And then just one of my last kind of questions is, so you're like a major athlete, like you do triathlons and you do a lot of running and lifting and Pilates. How do you
Mhm.
kind of fit that in? Because I know for me that I found that when I don't feel physically my best, my
Yeah.
teaching's off. Like I'm not a good teacher. I don't feel as present because our job is to be healthy and teach people how to be healthy. And when you're kind of neglecting that yourself, I think it makes it really difficult to show up as
Yeah.
that person authentically because you don't really radiate that. So, how do you kind of balance all the things you do with owning a business and also teaching? How many hours a week do you teach?
I honestly don't feel like I teach that much. I think 25.
25? Okay, but still, I mean, you're running a business and, you
I
know,
know, I mean, I feel like you guys, it's funny because when I talk to people in New York City, like you
I
guys,
teach like 40 hours a week, 45 hours a week.
but people here think 25 is a lot, which is really interesting, isn't it? They're like 25 hours a week. And I'm like, yeah, like it's good. I'm fine. Like it's a good balance for me actually. Like I find I have
Mhm.
enough time for life and like everything else and running everything else and teaching. And it feels like a good chunk of time teaching, like 6 hours at a time or 5 hours at a time. I'm like, okay, like I got the teaching bug out. But when I talk to you guys, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh
Yeah.
my God. You're like 9 hours a day. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh,
You're like, and then I go work out and then I go stare at the wall and we do it again the next day.
no. So yeah, I honestly don't know how you guys do it at all. Like I don't know how you work out and teach 8 to 9 hours a day, which is I'm assuming what you do,
I
right?
really just prioritize scheduling those workouts, regardless if it's like I just block that time out and I do it. Regardless, even if it's just some days after 9 hours a day, like I'll just make sure I walk 30 minutes and
Hmm.
that's enough. But if I don't move and
It's
like
hard.
it's just I feel awful and it's definitely reflected in like my
Yeah.
practice.
Something
And
I've actually, yeah, yeah, look at that. I didn't prioritize until more recently is actually food, which I
yeah.
feel like is kind of related, but not. Like
No, it's
obviously
like it's all
exercise.
related, but it's really important.
But I would get like, okay, I don't want to say food anxiety. Like I'd be like, I'm hungry, but there's no food. And I'm like so hungry. And I would get like this like I would just be like, I'm just straight hungry. Like I don't feel good and like I'm just starving and I'm starved for the next 3 hours and just like deal with it, I guess. Because I would never prepare food. But more recently I've been much more anal about meal prepping actually. And I see it as part of my like organization routine of like making literal lunches, breakfast and lunches like every single day. And I'm usually home for dinner except for like one night a week. So I prep everything like in little containers and like grab it right in the morning before I leave. But that was not something I was very strict about. And I do find that that helps me with fueling for the workouts as well. I have more energy to like actually want to work out. So
Yeah.
I did go through a period of time where I was struggling with getting workouts in because I was just so fatigued. Like I was like, I don't feel good.
Yeah,
It
you're
doesn't
like,
feel
my head hurts. I feel like groggy and like you're probably
yeah,
dehydrated because you're not drinking enough water and all this stuff.
I know. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the same for me too. It's just like making it a priority and scheduling it in. And I think for a period of time, like I really, I don't know if I was over exercising, and maybe this is like a different conversation of like 2 workouts a day at minimum. And
Right.
and now sometimes I feel guilty for not working out twice a day even if I got one workout in. I'm like, actually, I think that's okay, Christy. And I think that conversation too of like, perhaps there was a period of time where I had a lot of free time and I was working out a lot because I'd like had
Mhm.
the time to, like especially during COVID when I wasn't as busy, specifically like in early COVID days. And I think now sometimes I like will revert back to that. I'm like, oh, like I'm not doing enough workout
Right.
wise. I feel guilty about it, but yeah, I mean, I thankfully, and I think one of the perks of opening a business is like you're able to set your own hours. And I think I have become more and more strict about like, okay, I only work 7 to 2 on Tuesdays. Like I don't take anything after 2 and I don't take anything before 7.
Right.
I just don't take new clients anymore, basically. I'm like, just, I don't know, go add yourself to the wait list or just see something else. See somebody else, go somewhere else. I don't know. But yeah, I think I am more
Go
strict
somewhere
about
else. We're
kind
closed.
of,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I mean, for me, I'm like, okay, like I do Pilates, I own a business to have the life that I want to live. And like it fuels my passion and it supports my life. And it is like a lifestyle business for me. Like I'm not ultimately like trying to make as much money as possible off my business. Like I want to cultivate this like healthy, amazing community of instructors and of students and like bring classical Pilates to San Diego that has quality instruction, but like I don't need to make as much. Like if I really only cared about money, I feel like I would be pushing a lot harder. Let's put it that way, in terms of like how much I was working and what I was doing. And I think for me, I really see it as like a way to live the life I want to live long term. I don't know. Does that make
No,
sense?
I like that. I think that's really is like apparent in your values. And I've known you for a couple of years, but seeing like
Yeah.
your business grow kind of on social media, there is that authentic energy of like you can tell it's like a kind of studio that really prioritizes health as a whole, like
Yeah.
life in and outside of the studio and like being outside and kind of like the principles of Pilates. It's like return to life. Like life is it's just not all about Pilates and work,
Yeah.
right? Like you're
Like
trying to
Pilates makes you
encompass
better at life, right? Like that's
everything.
why
Yeah.
so many people come in and like we as teachers are like stuck in the studio teaching
Yeah.
for hours on end, but like our students are like living life, hypothetically,
I
hopefully.
hope so. But
You're like,
but like yeah,
yeah,
they also come to you to like get that energy. And I think it's
yeah,
important to that you value that because it's probably reflected in the clientele. Like your
yeah,
clients who you're attracting are probably athletes, people who like to move, people are happy, you're happy. Like it's just your clients kind of reflect you, right? So if you're like a vivacious, energetic person who likes to work out or who just has a passion for life, you're probably going to attract those clients. I sound
yeah.
super cheesy, but it really is. You know what I mean? Like if you're like
No,
a
it's true. It's like
grumpy old Pilates
you do have this
teacher,
like subconscious wavelength that you like
yeah,
emit, kind of. It's true. And like attracts like. I think that is so true. And like people are attracted to positive energy and like people who are happy and confident and
yeah,
like, you know, people who are insecure or like not feeling well, like it does, even if you try to hide it, emit this like energy
you
a little
feel
bit.
it. You
And
feel
like,
it for
yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I
no,
agree.
I love that. Like I think your studio really does encompass that, and I can see kind of like the growth of it. And it's like it seems like a very warm. I mean, the light is amazing in the studio. I've never been, but it looks great from social media.
I mean, I see it as my happy place, and I have really made it like my mission this year too to invest in the girls who are working there and like sort of the girls who are coming on as new teachers too, of like how can I make them feel like this is also their Pilates home and like they can cultivate community within the students here too and like make them feel like they're part of this community because I do think that like that kind of like uppity classical Pilates world, unfortunately, is like so rampant. And I want people to feel like comfortable. Like when they come in, it's not like, ooh, like where do I put my stuff? Like, should I be quiet? Should I tiptoe around? Like, I want people to be like, oh yeah, like I can be here and like chat with girls after class and like make a friend and like, you know,
Yeah, it's a
make
community. It's like a place where people feel welcome to be.
yeah. And that's why I do love teaching the semi-private classes. Like as much as privates are really my bread and butter. Like obviously I love
Financial
teaching
reasons,
private.
yeah.
Financial reasons, but also like I think you make more progress doing privates. Like that's the reality. Like something private is just a workout and
It is.
it's really fun and like you get to like be creative as a teacher as well in a different way. But I think for their sake, like you get to meet other people and like it is very different to like move with a group of people versus like moving by yourself. There's like a weird energy, I feel like in that.
No,
Very
totally. It's like when we all do workouts together, like teacher workouts, there's just a camaraderie and you leave with that feeling of like, because there's so many people moving together and it is a different kind of feedback than just
yeah.
sort of somebody staring at you moving, which is also a great feeling. But
Mhm.
it's nice that you have that mix of
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
It's really
I know
cool.
we're doing like a teacher's workshop with do you know Jenny Hong?
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, Jenny's coming and then Emily, and we're doing like a group. I don't know, we're calling Ascend Accelerated. I don't know, I just went on this like varsity theme a little bit, but it's basically just we're all teaching classes for a day. So like they're gonna come down from LA and we'll all teach a couple classes and just
When are you
like
doing that?
in April.
In
It sold
April.
out super fast, honestly. So I
That's
don't
so
really know.
fun.
It's gone already. Like I feel like all the spots just disappeared in a day.
That's so fun.
So yeah, I like to invite people because I feel like it brings that like energy, like that community aspect to our studio of like the greater Pilates community. And I think it is cool to be a part of because I think that Pilates people really root for other Pilates people. Well, usually.
If you root for other Pilates people, people will root for you. And in turn, like the network is huge. Like I share my clients with other people, people share their clients with me. Like you travel, you going to Dubai, you'll meet teachers, they'll send people. It's like the network is endless.
Yeah.
And the more people who you root for and help, the more people who are going to help you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's really nice.
Yeah. I know. With the podcast, Laura, are you like mostly interviewing Pilates teachers or is it just like a mix of people, like all sorts
It's like all people in fitness because I really
of
just want to have conversations that kind of
yeah.
Pilates teachers or any instructors would have that sort of touch on things that I think some people are aware of what's going on, but sometimes it's nice to hear different perspectives of people and hear journeys from other people. So,
No, it
yeah,
is cool.
but
Yeah.
I will say thank you for coming on. This was actually a really fun conversation. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time.
Of course. It was really fun.